Hello, everybody. I see we've got a great group here today. This is going to be an excellent topic. It is one that is so important. And I'm really excited to have my friend Emily here, who is my absolute go-to for all things related to, brand, website, all of these sorts of issues that we deal with because we have Mark and his team who are amazing at bringing you guys leads, bringing you people to the your website, but your website has to do its job as well. So Emily, tell us a little bit about you and then we can dig right in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Heidi and Mark. I'm so excited. And I was also telling Heidi at the beginning if we have time for website audits, that could be fun at the end. But I'm Emily. I'm the owner of Emily Foster Creative. I'm a brand and website designer. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I've been niched in working with the wedding industry for about 3 years now, designing custom brands and websites. And I'm really passionate that everything that you do with your brand and your website needs to be very strategic and goals oriented versus just pretty. And then I'm also really passionate that your website needs to have a really strong brand in order to be effective. So we're going to go into that in the presentation. I'm so excited to share it with you all. Okay,
I'm
great.
really glad you pointed out, like, yes, pretty is good,
Mhm.
but it has a job to do.
Right. Yeah, it has to attract and convert your ideal clients, which we will get into that. Okay, can everyone see this okay?
Yep, you're good.
Great. I will pull up the chat too in case anyone has any questions
Yeah,
throughout.
I'll definitely keep an eye out for questions. So if you guys have anything you want clarification on, any questions you have, feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt me if there's any questions that come in. We can make this totally collaborative. All right, so we're going to talk about a standout brand today, a little bit different than just having professional branding and how to attract your ideal clients with that. So just a little bit of a recap of who I am. I got married in 2022, so was kind of in that craze of when there was no shortage of vendors, but we had to book vendors really fast. So I feel like we looked at potentially even more vendors than like the normal couple would because everything was moving so fast. And like for example, with like hair and makeup artists, by the time I reached out to like probably the first five, they were already booked for like the next year and a half. So if you all remember how crazy that time frame was. And then in the last 3 years, have helped over 30 wedding pros get really personal and strategic with their brands, which I know 30 doesn't sound like a long number, but the branding and website design process usually takes anywhere from like 2 weeks to 6 months and can kind of just fluctuate based on how much customization we're doing. So I've been really excited about helping creative pros get really clear on all of that. I also love events, cats, books, and travel. So maybe we have something in common. To define a standout brand, I want to chat about what it means for your brand to actually be doing the work for you. So, a standout brand looks great. It's more than just a logo, which you might have heard on Instagram from other designers and everything. A lot of us are always reminding clients that your brand needs to be more than just a few logo designs. It's your colors, fonts, a lot of other details that we're going to get into in this presentation. But then it also helps you to connect with your ideal clients, not just everyone. So I really believe that a good brand should be a little bit divisive and turn off certain people and then turn on certain people so that you are attracting your niche and the types of people that you want to work with in a lot of different ways. It should express who your business is, but it doesn't necessarily have to be literal. So one common thing that I see with like starter photographers is that they have a camera in their logo, or a lot of wedding pros will have like rings or like a wedding dress or something like that, but it doesn't have to be that literal. It just needs to kind of align with the industry that you're in, so that you don't look like a mechanic trying to sell wedding services. Then it should also represent the quality of the work that you do, both your talent and then also the price range that you're working with. And we went over looking more than pretty. It should also withstand the test of time and be really well thought out and cohesive. So, A really good brand is going to take a while to start getting traction and kind of building that fan base up. And then consistency is really what's going to build trust with people. And then that trust is what helps people to be willing to pay you more for your services. All right, so you can't afford to have anything but a standout brand anymore. I really don't think that the wedding industry is in a part anymore where you can get away with having a brand that doesn't stand out or a website that just looks good enough. I think that referrals will only get you so far in business, which is great. I think it can get you very far, and marketing, of course, can get you far, and SEO and everything. But at some point, if you are hitting a wall of not being able to raise your prices or not being able to find enough of your ideal couples in your area or be able to expand to a team or any of those kinds of goals, it could be because your brand isn't elevated and standing out enough. So, just some stats for you. There are about 1.7 billion websites in the world. Obviously, not all just for wedding pros. And then there are more than 5 million weddings in the US per year. So even when we see like a slowdown, like maybe some of you might have been feeling, it doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't weddings happening and money going around. It's just the people with great brands that can be competitive in the market that are tending to get more of those weddings in those times. There are also over 413,000 wedding service businesses in the US. So if you are based in the US, I think everyone probably is here based on the timing of our call. But that's already a lot of competition, not even counting if you are like a destination planner or destination photographer or something and going up against other people in other markets. And then the average time spent on a website is just 54 seconds, so less than a minute. And that's less than a minute to make a first impression, connect with your ideal clients, and basically get them to start taking action and moving toward contacting you or reading a blog or downloading a lead magnet, whatever action it is you want them to take next. So, the biggest way to make an impact in that very short amount of time is through your brand because we will talk about basically your messaging, your images, all of that that comes together in your website. But it's really having a high end brand that makes that first impression on like the top fold of your website. Are you okay with me just answering questions throughout the presentation, Heidi?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you because this is a good one. So for a standout brand, I don't know if you have the data on this, but basically from what you've seen, what would you say the conversion rate is from clicks to the website to then taking the next step, like booking a consult or doing something from there?
Yeah, I would say I definitely don't have stats. It would be interesting to see, and there's a few things you could look at with this, like obviously Google Analytics, and then Hotjar and similar sites will also track the heat map of your website, so you can see like how quickly people are converting right from the beginning of your website. I think honestly, the brand part, while we are talking about first impression on your website initially, you're probably going to see that conversion rate the most over sales calls of like the people that are reaching out versus the people that end up being a good fit on the call. And I'm just going to read it real quick. What would you say the conversion rate is from clicks to their website to booking a service? I think that really is going to depend on the top fold layout of your website. And I would say it definitely is higher than having basically like what I call an early 2000s website that some wedding pros have. I can get stats on that. That would be really interesting to see like if there are any stats about the branding on your website and the actual conversion rates.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And the above the fold that Emily just mentioned, for anyone who's not familiar with that in website terms, it's where you can see without having to scroll. And that is precious, precious real estate on a website.
Yeah, so kind of what you see in this website design example. So we have a couple ways immediately for this client to get business. So requesting a quote, I always like to have some kind of call to action right in the top fold. And then I also like to have a contact or like book now or inquire button like somewhere in the top navigation. Or like if you just have a hamburger menu, that's fine too. But having that be reachable within 2 clicks is usually my goal. So having that good first impression, and that can kind of look different and get creative with any design that you have. Okay. So according to Zippia, a consistent brand increases revenue by up to 33%. So there is a stat around that. I think that a lot of the stats around branding are really psychological, and there's been like tons of focus groups and case studies of like if you can imagine two shampoo bottles up against each other in a store, and how, for example, like Biolage or Nexus is able to charge so much more than like herbal essences or like a dollar store brand or something like that, simply because of the branding. It's not always necessarily a matter of a better product, but a lot of times it's because of the brand perception and the value that people perceive because of that higher end brand. And then 82% of customers shop from brands that share their values. I think this is becoming even more important. We know it's been important with millennials, but I think it's becoming even more important with Gen Z couples because there are a lot of people who are value searching and trying to find people to work with that match up, not just with their basic values, but also like all of the little things that they find important in their wedding day and their experience. And I can share that, from our own experience that came up. We were planning, basically from early 2021 through 2022, so it was kind of a crazy time, and, just we had, like, a few kind of subtle things that we were looking for and trying to find a wedding pro, that would be, like, very accepting, like, even though we were, like, a straight white couple, but, like, in our area, like, trying to find someone who was, like, very accepting, also, like, very, much someone that we could relate to personally and, kind of, like, think of as a friend throughout the process. And then, someone who, like, didn't necessarily consider us, like, one of many weddings. Like, for example, we toured one venue that did multiple weddings a day, so it was important to us to find someone who could focus, like, on just one wedding per day venue-wise. So, a standout brand can help you book more clients. So, if you're at that beginning stage in your business still where you're not finding any clients, but you have your website set up and you have your Instagram account and everything, this is a common thing that I see. And then better fit clients is kind of that next stage where you're booked out and you're making good enough money and pretty much successful in your business, but you don't feel like you're necessarily thriving because there's some kind of missing link. Like, maybe the clients that you are working with don't make you the happiest, or you're not charging as much as you want for the work that you're doing. So that's kind of those two different stages that I see. And then it also helps you to stand out from competitors, thrive during slow times, like we talked about, be able to raise your prices. This is definitely a huge one in the wedding industry, especially because we know prices can be so vastly different across every single niche in the wedding industry. And then increase your confidence too. This is an immediate result that I see for the majority of my clients is just that before they work with me, they have a good service and they have a good amount of clients, but they aren't showing up consistently in their marketing and they aren't closing a lot of their sales calls because they aren't showing up confidently. And then, like, they'll go to networking events and they don't feel confident sharing their website. I don't know if any of you have related to that before, where you send someone to your Instagram account or you mention, "Oh, yeah, this is my website, but I'm getting it redone in the future." So kind of prefacing like that. And then immediately after we launch their brand and website, they're able to really show up as their best selves and be more consistent with marketing and all of those habits that are actually going to really get you clients. And then you can build trust in advance with your clients. So this is a huge part of raising your prices and getting them prepped basically to make a large investment with you. And also to understand your process and trust you as the expert. So a lot of people, once they have elevated brands, see that their clients are actually easier to work with because they are showing up as more of an expert and the client trusts that of them and isn't constantly questioning everything about them. Um, then free up your time and make your website and marketing work for you. We'll get into that. And then also build an audience of clients who rave about you and leads to more referrals. So I know it can kind of seem like you might not need to invest in your marketing and your branding because you're booked up with referrals. But really, a brand and strong marketing helps you to build more of that referral base. So you still keep getting more referrals, but then you also have that really established marketing foundation to have other avenues of sources, and leads. Okay, so branding is more than design. It's strategic, psychological, and an essential part of your business. There are so many fun things that go into this, and we're going to get into that now. Okay, so here's a peek into my process and how I develop a standout brand. So I always start first with brand strategy, and I really think this is essential. It's kind of like the hill I'll die on. I think that investing in a designer of any kind, like a Fiverr designer or a designer who you found on Instagram, like I just think it's going to be pointless unless they include brand strategy in their process to some level. You might not necessarily need like a 52-page document that outlines all of your competitors and your brand seasons and everything like that, but you do need some kind of base brand strategy component. So I always tell people that you can tell that you've found an experienced designer if they include some kind of strategy call in their process, some kind of strategy paperwork, something like that. It can look different for everyone's process, but it's really essential to building a brand that's actually going to be effective and align with your clients. And then from there, we'll go into a mood board and a color palette. Then we'll design logos after that. And each step of this process is very collaborative. So it's kind of a back and forth of me sharing basically one direction for the client because it's rooted in psychology and strategy, and my client's goals. And then they're able to give feedback and also share their kind of experience and knowledge of the industry so that we can make the best solution for them. And then from there, most clients will also invest in a custom website of some type or template customization and will launch a beautiful, effective, strategic website. And then from there, after that, it kind of looks different whether people design these things themselves or invest in it with us, but carrying the rest of your branding consistently throughout your marketing. So you always get brand guidelines, and you should from any professional designer that you work with, so that you can be consistent with your colors and typography across your social media and your other marketing content, such as like welcome guides, even your contracts and invoices, business cards, and all of that. And then always creating powerful content that stems from that same brand voice and strategy that we established in the beginning. Okay, so here's kind of an exercise with brand strategy. We'll go over some things and then I have a little bit of an interactive part of it if you are all interested. So it's a mix of research, psychology, and storytelling. And when I say that, for every client, I'm always doing at least some level of research for them into their competitors, their industry, their price range, and everything. And we spend a lot of time talking about that. And then also me doing the research on my own. And then the psychology part is thinking about their goals and the mission that we want to accomplish, and then kind of backtracking and using some color psychology and other design aspects to build a brand that reaches that. And then storytelling shows up in the visuals that we're presenting, as well as messaging like your copywriting on your website, and then also the images and all the other content that you're choosing for your website and other marketing channels. Okay, so first, to get clear on your brand story, I really want you to start asking yourself these questions. So this isn't the exercise. No, don't worry about like having to scramble the answers, but if there's a recording, feel free to go back and kind of journal on these when you have time. So you might have seen these kind of at the beginning of coaching programs that you've taken, but I think that they're asked commonly for a reason because this really helps you to start thinking about what makes your business. And then from there, that's really what we need to establish your brand. So why did you start your business? And then what keeps you in business too? I think that we all have kind of a, I would say like an altruistic, service-based reason that we started our business. But then I think we also have like a personal or selfish reason that we started. I think a lot of us can admit that we don't want to work in a 9 to 5 and we want freedom and flexibility, or maybe you wanted more money than what you could make in a 9 to 5, or maybe you didn't want to have to work under someone else in the wedding industry or something like that. So that's totally fine to have that reason. And then also having that other motivator of why you want to help your clients and what kind of hole do you see in the industry that you can fill. And then what's something you really care about that your competitors don't? So this can be like the unpopular opinion question or the hill that you'll die on. It could also be a cause that you care about, like sustainability or social justice and other things like that. But just really speaking to what you care about that people don't necessarily care about showing up in their business. And I also want you to think about it from your business standpoint. So it doesn't have to be necessarily all of your morals and values, but the way that you're showing up as a business owner and how you can serve your clients with these kinds of values. And then what personal or industry related values do you have? So, kind of outside of those morals, and values and things that could relate to your business, also thinking about like very industry specific values. Like, are you very passionate about non-traditional weddings versus large weddings, or kind of the opposite? Do you really love weekend weddings and events that are just a huge affair and you don't necessarily want to work micro weddings? So it could be details like that or other parts of like your process that you really care about that you might notice that other competitors don't. Okay, and then here's the exercise. So we're going to write a niche statement. It's basically a fill in the blank, and then I have a few examples for you. So we serve blank by offering blank so that they can blank. So I'll use this as kind of the core start when I work with clients on their client avatars in our brand strategy calls. And from there, we expand upon it with like a ton of qualities about these people. Not just like they love Target and going to Starbucks and things like that, but even more so like what are their pain points and why are they booking you? So I like to tell clients to get specific with each line of this, but also don't get too hung up on that one person. I often get reactions from people that like we're creating this client avatar and then the branding's only going to be reaching that one person. But what we're really doing is trying to reach people who share that similar like mindset. So a couple examples here. We serve adventurous couples in the Seattle area by offering adventure elopement photography so that they can remember their non-traditional once in a lifetime elopement. We serve brides and grooms with large budgets in Washington, D.C. by offering custom luxury wedding planning and design so that they can bring their dream wedding to life without the stress and time-intensive planning. We serve young budget couples in the Orlando area by offering wholesale flower sales and DIY arrangement coaching so that they can have stunning flower arrangements on a budget. We plan, should say, we plan successful, wealthy professionals vacations by organizing and planning luxury travel so that our clients can escape to remote locations without the effort of planning a trip themselves. Okay, so we'll just go back to that little fill in the blank and then maybe wait a minute. And if anyone wants to share their example, we can chat through that. Or if Heidi, if you want to share an example.
Yeah, definitely come share these in the chat. And it's okay if they're not formulated. This is just one of those things that once you start thinking through it and talking through it and playing with it, it gets clearer and clearer and clearer. And I
Mhm.
love that you've included the so that they can, because I think where a lot of us get stuck is, we serve couples in our area by offering photography services, wedding dress, you know, fittings and purchases, a venue for the wedding. And it's like, yes, but so does everybody else.
Right.
So if we can zoom in a little bit more so that you can effectively be very clear, but also stand out and make yourself, very obviously the fit for that one person.
Yeah, and an example of this, we'll get into this a little bit, but a book I like to recommend is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. When we're talking about like storytelling and brand strategy. And he uses, I think, Tums or Tylenol as an example of like, no one is ever actually paying for Tums or Tylenol. Like, that would be so boring if you cared about pills in a bottle. But really, what they're paying for is the solution to their problem. So, like, resolving their headache or their stomach ache. So really, for most of you, the moneymaker is like this last part of the statement. So a lot of people don't really care what your photography process is, or I'm sure they care a lot about your style because that's going to show up in this last line. And they obviously care about having a good experience, but it also comes down to this of wanting to remember their wedding and a once in a lifetime elopement. So like this is where you have room to build a brand and basically charge more because people see this kind of value in it. And I love like the travel example a lot for this because this is a common one. Like if you're a travel agent or destination wedding planner, They really just care about the vacation and not having to stress or prep for any of it themselves. It's not really about the efficiency or having someone book flights for them or anything like that. It's just about that end result.
Yeah, and it's very much like what we talk about in our businesses. Like what I talk about in my business isn't that I help you with your marketing. I
Mhm.
talk about the fact that I help wedding professionals book more of the people they want to be working with and build businesses that give them freedom and flexibility. Like that's the result. That's the like headache cure. People don't
Yeah,
care that like, okay, I get help with my marketing. Maybe some people care, but ultimately that's not what they're buying. And we've got some examples here.
love this.
For fun adventurous, this is from a website from fun adventure for, sorry, for fun, adventurous, passionate couples in love, eager to relive their dream wedding time and again as a cinematic movie.
That I love that so much, because I do think like with wedding videography, at least in our experience, there's obviously people who value it and don't, with
Mhm.
everything. And we really valued it. It was a big part of our budget. Like it's funny when you see those Pinterest budgets examples and they're like nothing like what you're actually spending. So like we cut down on other things, and this was totally a value for us. Thanks for
And
sharing.
Mark says, we serve small business owners in the wedding industry by offering advertising help and services. And most people would stop the sentence here, but then we get the so they can reach more couples and focus on what they do best.
Yes, I love that about like taking the time off of their plate so that they can actually do what they started their business to do. Thank you.
Don has a question for you. He says the niche statement concept is the unspoken mantra, right? The umbrella you create with it informs your marketing.
Kind of. I definitely think it's used in different ways. So it could create your mission basically. And then it could also be like I've heard mantra also used sometimes like manifesto, like your brand manifesto. And then I would say this specific example, like it really influences your brand and like the heart of your business. And then that is going to inform your marketing. So like this last part of the statement is going to inform at least one of the pillars of your marketing. Like if you've heard of like social media content pillars or anything like that. Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't actually publish this statement. So you could basically take it and kind of reimagine it like the way that I'm sorry, is it IPES or EPES? Um,
Yeah, that's a great example of like out in the wild how it's used.
Yeah, like it can sound a lot more like romantic than this, but especially the ways that I wrote these, I wouldn't use these examples. And this is actually a really common example of like where businesses go wrong is they'll write this and then they kind of just stop there and they don't really invest in messaging and storytelling for their brand. So if you've seen brands that, especially like sustainable brands, I feel like this is a good example where they'll write some kind of like beautiful paragraph of what they care about and then their values and then they just like put it on a bottle or like a wall or something somewhere and like large corporations will do this too, but no one really cares about the mission and values of a company. They care about what it's going to do for them. So definitely like refreshing it and framing it in a way to catch people's attention versus like just kind of sharing this statement with them.
You
Is that
I love
pronounced
helpful?
my name Ipes.
Okay, Ipes, thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to get it wrong, but I loved your example. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. I hope that was helpful for everyone. Feel free to come back to this too as you're working on it more later. Okay, and then so there's a few things that we're talking about in this brand strategy component that can then be translated to your copywriting and your brand design and everything. And like I said, I'm a very strategic brand designer. So that's why we're not even talking about logo designs yet, because you have to start with all of this first. But then the next thing is a unique selling proposition. So it's this like Venn diagram basically of talking about some of the things that we already talked about. So what your competition lacks, those things that make you stand out, and that niche statement kind of language, what your business is best at. So also kind of relates to your niche statement and then also like your unique talents and everything. And then what your customer desires. So this is the first start to that solution that they're paying for. And when you think about that solution, like that's where there's the money, like where you can basically have your prices raised to almost everything. Like obviously there's going to be a cap in some markets, but kind of back to the shampoo example, people will pay $2 or they'll pay $100 for shampoo. And it's really the same in the wedding industry. So thinking about what is that desire that your customer has that you can fill and basically charge a premium price for. So it's that intersection of everything. And then I also like to go through a client archetype with this other data in mind and think through a few details of your client archetype. So the first one is psychographics. So these are like the emotional commonalities that a lot of your ideal clients would have. And you can't necessarily always picture them on paper. Like this isn't something that would show up on a job application. But it is something that tons of companies, including like Facebook or Meta, use all the time. Like when you are going to schedule Facebook ads, you'll see some things like this. So like what do they like? What do they think about, do in their free time? So some of this can kind of be written down. Like, for example, I used to do marketing for Subaru, and there were other things like hiking and camping and other kind of activities that we would use to position ads to certain psychographics like that. So for you, if they are looking for a certain kind of wedding experience, you would want to kind of think through what they're doing in their free time, what other things in their lives that they're paying a premium price for, or that they consider a luxury, but it's just kind of a normal part of their life. And then demographics are really things that you can track easily, like where do they live? How old are they? How much money do they make? Another one that I like to ask in my brand strategy calls too is like, okay, we know kind of how much money they make or like their tax bracket generally, but how much are they actually willing to spend for this service? Because that's going to also look different from each kind of client niche in the wedding industry. And then think through the customer journey too. So, at what point in this process of their wedding story are they finding you? Which will look different for kind of every type of wedding vendor. And then, when and where are they finding you and interacting? And like, where is that space that they live in? And where should you be living in based on that? And then thinking through some of your positioning. So I like to use these four kind of pillars for it. So thinking about the local market, what local couples are like. This is kind of where you can think more about your pricing and kind of industry standards and like what are the expectations for this market. And then style, what sets you apart. And you don't necessarily have to have a super set style, I don't think, honestly, to be a successful brand. So this could be a component, but it doesn't have to be like the only deal breaker for you. And then competitors, looking at those, I like to look at competitors just to get an example of where my clients should be and kind of the caliber of what we're up against, but not necessarily to copy or be inspired by, because the idea is to position you as a unique provider. And then pricing. So thinking about with all of these things in mind and the quality of the work that you provide, are you pretty much on par? Are you below? Are you higher than? And then also, do you kind of want to stay there? Because I think it's totally fine if you are charging more budget friendly prices, like you can stay there and think about what you want your business model to be with that. But then your branding just needs to align to those kinds of couples. Here's the book that I mentioned. So it goes really in depth and it's interesting to think about storytelling as humans. They use some examples like Star Wars and Harry Potter and things like that. Just how we as humans love stories and we pay attention to stories. And when you aren't necessarily telling a story with your branding, then you're losing people's focus and basically allowing their focus to go to a competitor who's doing a good job with this. Okay, now the fun aesthetic part that you guys probably actually came for. I know that the strategy is always like something that people aren't expecting when we talk about high-end branding, but this is some of the fun part. So I like to get inspiration and build a mood board basically before we go into any actual design. Some resources I use Pinterest in a little bit of a different way. I know that people are saying that you start to see the same thing over and over on Pinterest, but I like to do like a lot of different kinds of searches and even look up like inspiration that has nothing to do with my client. So I might look up like art examples or museum examples or something totally different than a wedding planner logo. to see what we could put in a mood board. And then Adobe Color Wheel is a fun place to put together a cohesive color palette. I'll also look on like Instagram, industry publications. I used to even like look at local paint aisles too to get ideas for new colors. And then just getting all of this together, basically collecting a bunch of inspiration for this phase. Some color palette tips that you should follow if you are building your own color palette and not working with a professional designer. Just general rule of thumb is to start with a minimal color palette. And I like to ideally use no more than 8 colors. When you think about some of the most high-end brands, their colors are really limited to anywhere from like 2 to 5 colors. But it's also okay to have some secondary colors to give yourself some creative freedom when you're designing your brand and all of your assets. So try to keep it minimal and then supplement with neutrals too. So you don't have to be like beige and neutral to be in the wedding industry. I was actually really scared of this at first because I thought like everyone in the wedding industry was going to want this. But one thing that I found time and time again is that you can stand out and be a high-end vendor without necessarily needing to sacrifice color. So if it makes sense for your brand strategy, don't be afraid to include that. And then we'll get into some color theory. But in general, do include at least one light neutral and one dark neutral. And that can be kind of creative. So, like in this example, this was for a destination wedding planner, and we had like kind of a cream white and then a navy blue as the neutrals, and then also like a dark green. So, you don't necessarily have to have black and white or like beige and brown. It can look totally different for your brand. And then I like to use Adobe Color Wheel to bring it all together. Okay, so color theory is all about thinking through the feelings that colors evoke, and then if they make sense for your audience and if they accurately represent the quality and potential of your brand. And I like to also include potential because when we are doing a rebrand for a client, it's really essential for you to realize that we're designing for your future brand and your future business, not for your brand right now. Like, so if there are certain goals that we're trying to meet, then we really have to raise the bar to get to those. And that includes when we're thinking about changing up colors, like we're not necessarily always thinking about your current clients that you're booking, but we're thinking about your ideal clients that you want to book more of. So just some examples. I have a worksheet at the end if you're curious about learning more of this. I feel like this could be its own hour-long workshop. But red is often seen as bold, sometimes playful, and it has like more of a masculine feel. All of these colors, honestly, though, have masculine or feminine feels, or bold or muted, all based on the different kinds of shades that you're using. So that's what's really exciting about being a wedding pro is that you don't have to limit yourself to even like blue and white like you see in a lot of brands, like you saw in the color palette example that I included. You can get really creative with this. And then the feelings that red evokes tend to be passion, excitement, anger, urgency. Another one is hunger too. So you might see it like with a lot of fast food and restaurant brands. And then pink, more of a feminine, youthful, playful tone, but it can also be perceived as modern and luxurious. And then green tends to build trust. So you'll see it used by like a lot of financial firms and things like that. It also, just psychologically in studies, evokes feelings of creativity. So, like, fun fact at the university that I went to, they repainted the psychology building while I was there, and they added a green accent wall to every room, which aligned with my university's colors. But they also did that to kind of create like energy and creativity in the rooms of these psychology students. Can also symbolize growth, earthiness, and prosperity. And then blue is used by so many brands because of the feelings that it evokes. So calmness and tranquility, it builds trust, gives a sense of professionalism, and there's just so much flexibility within all of the shades to help it align and evoke these feelings, whether you're like a healthcare company or if you're like a small law firm or something like that. Like you can, and then also a lot of wedding pros use it because of this feeling, I think. So you can build trust in a lot of ways with this color. Okay. Typography general tips are to use no more than 2 to 3 fonts in your brand. Make sure you have the right licenses as well. So for most clients, I like to find a combination of free Google fonts because they pair really well with a lot of website platforms. And then I also like to get an affordable license from a shop like Creative Market, most of these fonts are going to be like less than $100, which might not sound like the smallest amount, but there are fonts that get upwards of like $1,000. So for small businesses, Creative Market is a really good way to go. And I like to get a unique font that is purchased just so that you're not using like Montserrat or Railway or like Helvetica all the time, but then also have that combination of like web-friendly free fonts. And then pay attention to spacing between your letters and lines. This is really where you can tell if someone's been DIYing or if they're a professional designer. And also the way that I can tell if a designer has years of experience or not is the way that they treat spacing with their typography. And my favorite website platform is Showit. A couple other platforms are good about this too, but I just really love Showit because of the customization that you can give to your fonts and be able to like really get particular with spacing. And then try pairing thin and thick fonts for contrast. That contrast is going to give a sense of high-end feeling to your brand. And then use a variety of typography types too. So these are typography types that I would refer to. There's some other ones too, but these are the most common. So serif fonts are going to be fonts that have these little feet at the end. They can all have totally different feelings. There's like kind of a subcategory of serifs called slab serifs that are kind of more of a chunky feel, whereas these kind of have more of like that luxury feel. And then sans serif fonts are the ones that don't have the little feet on the letters. Script fonts are like calligraphy or hand brush fonts that tend to have more of that like kind of romantic feel to them. And you can also tell just from these examples how like Abiding Love kind of has a more high-end feel than just Lovely. So that's where I like to go back to the client's brand strategy to be really strategic. So it's not like we're just picking one of these each for a brand just willy-nilly. We're like really thinking about line thickness and the way it pairs with other typography to get the right feeling. And then display fonts or what's been called like custom fonts or something are like really unique fonts that have different accents, and some of them are like a lot more tacky or playful than others, whereas other ones can have like a luxury feel. And people will often use these, especially if they're trying to evoke a specific feeling. Like I've used this font before for a wedding venue that was trying to have more of like a retro feeling. Okay, and then for logo design, just some simple tips to make sure it's easy to read close up or far away. So I like to tell people that their logo should be able to be read as small as it would be printed on a pen, but then also it should look good as if it were blown up onto a huge billboard. And this is a common mistake that I see people make is they overcomplicate their logo in the wedding industry and add like all of these frills and shadows and things like that. So we want to keep it ultimately simple and easy to read, but that doesn't mean that it has to be basic. You can still have some detail, like even with these examples, where you can still like read the logo from a far distance, but you would have to get closer up to get certain little details. And then just avoid, in general, special effects like drop shadows or gradients. This is going to really outdate your logo eventually. And it also makes it not a vector file. So a vector file is the main reason why I don't want anyone using Canva to design their logos, because you just can't have a vector file in Canva. Like you're able to basically export a PNG or JPEG and certain file types, but a vector file is a file that's made up of points and lines and not pixels. So if you've ever designed a logo in Canva yourself and then you exported it at a certain size, and when you like stretched it, you saw that it was pixelated or blurry, that's because it's a not a vector version of the file, it's a raster version. So what we really want is a vector version so that it's very scalable and timeless for your brand. And then you could basically bring it to any printer and use it for any digital purpose, and it's going to look high quality. And then also make sure that your logo can work in black, white, or any of your brand colors. So an example of this is like, I will see clients, or like before they're my clients, I'll see people like put like a flower and then like their name over a flower, but they don't do any kind of like cutting or adjusting of the logo. So when you make it all black on a white background or all white on a black background, it's just kind of muddied and hard to see. Okay. I was gonna see, okay, I said wild.ve is the used example. That's a big part of my business logo. Yeah, I love that. I'll definitely take a look at that link before. This was for a venue called Venue at the Edge. So this is also an example too of like how when you get really close on the logo, we like actually cut out parts of the logo so that they didn't overlap and get muddied together. So that's kind of the detail that you get when you work with a designer as well. Okay, let me just get to the next page. Okay, so you also need more than a logo, color palette, and fonts. Sometimes I'll do just a package like that for clients if they're really at the beginning in their business. But that's usually if you're at that point of like you just need more clients and you need something that looks good, essentially. But once you're at the point where you really need to be more competitive in the industry and you need to niche down and raise your prices, like kind of those next level goals, these are the assets that are really going to set your brand apart. So details like monograms, icons, illustrations, applying custom details like patterns to your social media graphics and your website. I like to use pattern designs like this pattern here. This was for a French wedding planner. And I like to use it as like the background of websites or making custom tissue paper for their client gifts, the background of business cards or packaging. And then I love illustrations. So that's one of the things that I also include in kind of my quote unquote design style. We can still work in any style, but I like to include custom illustrations when possible so that it's something that no one else could have and is an extra touch to the brand. Okay, so after all of that work, we have to apply your brand to your website and marketing. And probably 3/4 of this presentation you can see is just all about strategy and branding because that's how much it really matters to your website and marketing. And if you skip this part and you go straight to your website and marketing, it's going to ultimately fall flat, whether it's like right away and you don't see any traction with it, or whether it goes stale like 5 years from now. So, first, before we apply everything, we want to fine tune your messaging for your website itself. I like to give these general tips. So, make sure your clients can easily see themselves through the writing that you have on your website. So, actually speaking to them and not just sharing kind of like a digital brochure of yourself and your experience. And then also through the images that you're sharing on your website. So, if you want to work with a specific kind of client, then they need to be able to see themselves in those pictures. And that's where it really helps to have like styled shoots or some kind of experience or invest in high quality stock photos or something until you can get to that point where you actually are booking and getting galleries from your ideal clients. Use language that makes sense for them too. So I like to remind clients not to use a ton of industry jargon. Like there's just certain words that people are going to get lost by and confused by. And if they get lost and confused, then they are going to get overwhelmed and either close out of your website or not reach out to you. And then make it about them, not you. So this is what I was talking about with kind of like your online resume and cover letters. So just one quick tip for this is to change everywhere that it says I to you and basically be speaking to them and their problems and the solutions that you provide to them, and instead of sharing like all of your capabilities. And consider working with a professional copywriter. I would also add like a professional photographer for your brand photos and when possible, like investing in a higher end photographer too for the weddings you're partnering with or like the styled shoots you do, I guess like would be the ones that you're actually investing in yourself. And then build a website strategy. So this is going to be all about user experience and thinking through your client's path and what the call to action should be on their website, what your pages look like, both the page count and the structure, and then the flow of page to page. And then also think through what people are searching to find you. So we can go back to your brand strategy and think about that, and then do keyword research essentially to think through how they would be landing on your website and like the kind of questions that they're asking. And then the next part of it is good design. So bringing that user experience to life, making sure that you have a mobile optimized website, and then keeping your pages as simple as possible within your brand confinements. So they don't necessarily have to be basic and like grid layout or anything like that, but just having hierarchy and making sure that your pages are easy to scan and focus on telling a story through that experience as well. So don't throw all of the information out them at once, but kind of create it as if you were almost creating a little bit of a storybook of like, here's the intro, here's what we want you to think and feel first, and then here's the end goal, and think of like each page as that kind of flow. And then also be thoughtful with your use of brand colors and fonts, keeping it simple. So again, like try to keep less than 8 colors and 2 to 3 fonts for consistency. And then I like to use it everywhere. So I love Showit, the website platform, because it's so flexible with being able to use your branding all over your website, but then also be consistent with all of these things throughout the rest of your marketing platforms as well. So use only your brand colors, stick to those font limits, and then also don't be afraid to bring the entire logo suite into your website using different brand elements in certain places. And icons and illustrations are a great way to call out information on your website. Okay. And then the last component of a standout brand and the way it shows up on your website is your SEO. So I think a common mistake that people make with search engine optimization is that they think it's all about like the tech side and just getting more clicks to your website. But really, in all honesty, SEO is just like marketing, like networking for Google. So it's about providing free value, sometimes paid value, but basically like answering questions and solving problems through the use of certain keywords and just being strategic with that. So the more that you're getting your website out there, the more that you're collaborating with people in real life and doing things like blog swaps or email swaps or like Instagram lives, things like that are all going to generate traffic to your website as well and actually benefit your SEO. So it's not just about having perfect page titles and meta descriptions, which you might have heard about, but it's also about consistency and collaboration. And then also show your personality and value on your website. Make sure you have a powerful about section or page. Don't be afraid to get kind of personal in your blog and share those kinds of answers to the questions that we talked about earlier. So, like the hill that you'll die on, your unpopular opinions, things that will really help you to stand out. And then try sharing thoughtful client testimonials. So, versus just so and so did a great job for me or their work was beautiful, kind of get back to testimonials that have that solution kind of in them of like they really took the stress off our shoulders, other kinds of things like that of like the actual problem you solved. And then also offer high quality freebies and lead magnets, so that you're getting email opt-ins and building your email list over time. Okay. Some quick tips. I'm totally happy to stay longer too, because I know we're kind of running low on time, but um, tips from our own wedding search. And these are literally pieces of advice that I'm taking because they influenced whether we booked or didn't book vendors. So show your face and your personality on both your website and your social media. An interesting thing that I was worried about, I don't know if this was necessarily a warranted worry when we were planning our wedding, but so many businesses went out of business, as we know, during 2020. And in planning a wedding in 2021 to 2022, there were a lot of businesses we came across that may or may not have still been in business. So this is where that really came into play. And then also just being able to connect with someone on a personal level and feel like we could trust them by giving them thousands of dollars. That's where this one really matters. And you as a person are also going to be like your most unique asset for your brand. So this is really important. And then explain your packages and process on your website and give a general idea of pricing. I think that this goes hand in hand, and I don't think you necessarily have to have all your pricing on your website, or have like very detailed breakdowns. And I don't necessarily think that you even have to have a package on your services page and then list what the price is, but at least something, even in your FAQs, that says like the average client makes X investment, something somewhere on your website, unless you're in the very ultra luxury industry, is going to be pretty much essential these days in being able to get people to reach out and book a call. And be open to sales or consultation calls too. There were a number of vendors that we came across who just didn't take the time to do that. So it was pretty easy to eliminate them. Make sure your website is as high quality as your social media. There's often such a disconnect where we spend tons of time on creating beautiful content for Instagram. And then as soon as you go to the link in bio, it's just an awful experience. So that kind of breaks that trust. And we want that trust to be established in order for people to reach out to you and pay you a lot of money. And then make it easy for inquiries to contact you. So a little pro tip that I like to share is to make your email address or your phone number clickable so that if someone is on the go and planning, they can just easily contact you from their mobile device versus having to fill out the whole contact form. And then also making your contact form really easily fillable. And then partner with other vendors as well. So I think this just across the board, we know like community over competition is important. We obviously got a lot of referrals for some of our vendors, and that helped. But then the combination of all of these other things above really made a difference of whether we booked them or not. And then partnering with other vendors can also help your SEO for your website. All right. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I also have these details I can share with Mark and Heidi to give you. I actually did this in Heidi Summit, so that's why I had Power Pack still in here. But there's a brand colors and color psychology freebie, so you can learn some more about the emotions and influences of colors. And then there's a website checklist to help you elevate your website.
I'm really glad you brought up the point of the making sure the form is easy to fill because we have like the vast majority of people are coming on mobile devices. If you have a contact form that isn't easy to fill out on a phone, and like I've seen Mark talking about so much lately, is like 12 fields long, not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, I think we like tend to think that it's like a job application, like, or some people treat it that way. But it has to be as easy as possible for people to fill out. Especially you have to think of this stage as like no matter what, and typically no matter how quality of a vendor you are, like people are reaching out to like at least three options for every phase of the wedding process. So if they have to do this three times, it's going to be exhausting for them. I feel like three is a minimum too. I feel like people are usually reaching out to more.
Emily,
Uh,
I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate your conversation on branding, especially. A lot of times in our world with advertising, people overlook branding and they do it as a DIY, and they're like, these are the colors that I like, these are the fonts that I like, and they don't consider what their potential couples like. And so, there's a just blanket statement of appreciation for all that you shared, because I think to me the big takeaway is how detailed um, branding can get and how thoughtful it can be and how it is in every business owner's journey. There's a DIY stage where you got to do it yourself, and that's okay. But at some point in that journey, it transitions to having someone focus on it, and that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love advertising too. That's actually my background. I should have said that at the beginning. So I love how it coincides with advertising.
Yeah, that's
The
awesome.
example you showed of that, I think it was a French planner and just the pattern you created, instantly I was like, yep, I could have probably guessed without going anywhere that this illustration and that pattern and the background is going to be something like classic European-y, it gives that kind of feeling and it's so subtle.
Yeah, and that's actually a great example because when I emailed this to that client, I think I sent off her presentation and everything. And she was like, I love everything except I don't really love the pattern because she's American and she plans weddings in France, and then her husband's French for context. And she was like, the pattern reminds me of the wallpaper in my husband's grandmother's kitchen. And I was like, okay, but that might seem annoying to you. Or like maybe her husband even made a comment of like, it seemed outdated. But I'm like, if your ideal couples are American couples coming to France, like this is what they're looking for.
That's what they want. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And she like I think her response, which is like the best like green flag client response, was just like, great, I trust you. And we published it, and that was like a year and a half ago, and she's seen a lot of traffic since we launched.
Cool. That's cool. I have a thought on logos and social media that I wanted like that sparked while you were talking. So many businesses put a photo is as their social media logo on their like Facebook page or their Instagram. It's like a photo of a pretty couple. And then when you look at it, it's super tiny. It literally looks like nothing. And what you shared about branding and design with logos is super, super important for a couple who doesn't know, like, and trust you to feel like you are a brand when your logo looks good in that tiny little spot versus is a photo and you can't tell what that is. If you can't tell what that is in that spot, they're like, it's probably a really tiny business and they may not be a good fit for me simply based on like what your logo looks like on Instagram. It's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't get into that, but I recommend using your logo as your profile picture, kind of if you are in that phase of like you have a team or an agency or something. I would even recommend that over like a team photo because like you're saying, it's gonna look so tiny if you have like 5 people in a group picture on your profile pic. And then if you are like one professional or like your business name is under your name, I do usually recommend like a headshot, but then I think it should be cropped really well and like have a high end feel to it so that people can quickly see who you are. And then you should definitely still have your logo in other places.
So true. Like if you're a one person business, your headshot's perfectly acceptable. But if you're a venue or a bridal store or a bigger company that's not just your face, like don't use your headshot, like use your
Yeah.
create a brand with a great logo and use that logo as the profile picture.
Yeah, like if you're a bridal shop, definitely, or like a wedding dress shop, definitely don't have a picture of a dress in the like profile pic if you can help it. And then if you're a venue, like don't just have a picture of like your venue building, because that's going to get so lost. And
Yeah.
yeah, be so specific too, especially for dresses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like dresses, it's very easy. If you had a bunch of dress shops that were using photos of dresses, like how do you tell the difference when you're scrolling through, when you're going through stories, when you're looking at your DMs? Like it all just blends together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is the simplest logos too that stand out the most in our minds too. Like when you think about like Disney or Nike or like McDonald's, like they're such simple logos that took actually a ton of time to design still because it's kind of like that phrase from I always forget who it is. Like basically editing down your work takes more time than just writing like a huge long letter. And it's the same way with logos, but it's like those shapes that people can remember. Like I'm pretty sure if we did a little exercise right now and I had everyone like draw the Nike logo, people would probably get it like 90% right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
thanks for
cool.
sharing, Sabra.
I love the connection you made too between design and trust because
Mhm.
I think sometimes we don't think about that so much. But even from your own experience as a bride looking for vendors and seeing like inconsistencies, seeing like sloppy branding. I mean, yes, you're biased because you're a brand designer, but just like anybody else, you're looking for signs of, is this a legitimate company? Can I trust this company? Are they going to do what they say they're going to do?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think like if you don't have a consistent marketing and brand experience, then it's like how can people trust that your process will be consistent and the consistency of the work that you provide too?
And they would never say that in their using words, but it literally is how they feel. And it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's fascinating how good branding creates trust. And your link from branding to pricing is fascinating because it really is true. If you want to raise your pricing, you can't not have good branding because
yeah.
people don't trust it.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest ways that it shows up, like instead of them actually saying it, is like if they get on a sales call and they're like shocked by your pricing, that's usually a sign that your brand isn't showing up as high end. Or also if it's like the opposite way and you get that like unfortunate response, like you share your pricing and they're like, oh, great, that's a great deal, or like that's way less than we were thinking. Then you might not be targeting the right audience. And then the other part too, like after you start the process, if people are this is hard because I'm kind of that person who tends to ask a lot of questions, but if people are like always asking questions and like never trusting you as the expert, and it doesn't seem like it's just their personality, then that could be another sign that there's some kind of disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for breaking those down. And I think, we've all had situations where we've gone to a website and we're like, I don't know, I'm not getting like super trustworthy vibes off of this.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like it's not necessarily bad. It's not standing out. It's not building trust. It's not showing how they're different and that like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was actually just talking with someone else about this today, but I feel like the wedding industry is this one unique industry where people charge premium prices and you're spending like almost as much as you would on like other high-end services that you might think of, like unfortunately like medical care or like law services and things like that. But while there are some ugly like law firm or dental websites, a lot of them have it together. Like it might have a kind of a corporate vibe to it. But you can like trust the experience on the website, whereas a lot of wedding pros have kind of like glitchy websites that look like it was maybe coded in like 2005. So it's like this weird market where it's really detrimental if you don't have a high-end branded website because of the prices that we all have to be charging essentially.
Yeah, well, kind of circling that into like why we have you here on this session, Emily. Like, uh, it's easiest to grow your wedding business by referrals, and you can have a crappy website with great referrals and still, in some capacity grow your business because you're getting these warm leads, people that know, like, and trust you because their friend used you and they got this great recommendation. But to take your business to the next level and use advertising, which is our specific focus, if you want people who it's a completely cold audience to start to know, like, and trust you in some capacity, you have to have a brand that communicates who you are and creates a feeling of trust. And without that, it is impossible. And that's why we're bringing folks like you, Emily, into our live learning events, because advertising is very powerful. But if you're advertising a really crappy website or like you don't have a logo, it's not going to work and you're going to spend a bunch of money and it's going to fail, not because the advertising didn't reach those people correctly, but what they saw when they got there wasn't what they expected or what they want out of a business a person they're going to hire for their wedding. So just to kind of wrap up those two things together about the I Do Society and your work, Emily, really, really appreciate that. You brought such great information.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I know we're over time, but if you do have extra time, I can stay and do a couple website audits if you want. But we can also always do another thing someday.
Yeah, I have to head out to a different meeting, but if anyone wants to stay and you want to do a website audit, that would be incredible. But
It was so nice meeting you.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
thank you
Yeah,
guys.
I've
Okay.
got time if anybody wants to dig in and get some feedback on their website.
Yeah. Yeah, Spencer is so right. Site speed can also make you look bad.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to review your website, Sherry. We can start with yours. What is your URL?
Yeah, go ahead and drop your URLs.
Let me just double check to make sure. I know I have a call later, but I'm pretty set on time. Okay. And then also, if any of you have questions, you can find me at Emily Foster Creative on Instagram or my email's hello@emilyfostercreative.com.
And I will say, Sherry, I'm not a designer, but I like that immediately when I land on this website, I get an impression of
Yeah.
who you are, what you're all about, and what your client is all about.
Yeah, I love that too. Like I feel like there's a very like warm and like kind of ephemeral feel here if that's what you're going for. And I like that you have a photo at the top as well. I would say you could push this logo over or like put it in the middle and put the navigation items around it. And then I do like the logo. I would like obviously need to dig into your strategy to say if it's a good fit. But I love that there's a butterfly incorporated because I kind of feel like that's unique for like we just see so many hearts and wedding rings and like I said earlier, all of those different examples in the wedding industry. So I think it's refreshing to have something different there. If you could, I know it depends on your platform, but you could just remove these arrows since we already have the dots here, and then it kind of just auto goes through. And then for SEO purposes, you could add an H1 headline here that says your location or like bridal atelier or something here. And then maybe save the quotes for farther down for creating that connection. And that way people know exactly what your website is about when they first land. And then I would also just focus on making the color contrast a little bit more readable on buttons. Like it can be a little hard to see like the thin white font on the pink. So just updating that. And then same with like the contact us button down here. I do think it's interesting that this is a form because I always am telling clients I don't know if this is one of my unpopular website opinions, but I don't think chat boxes are necessary for our industry because mostly no one is like really getting back to you 24/7. But I think it's interesting to have the contact form down here. And then I would make this section more readable. I think you could probably cut the text in half and then either save the other half for another place and then also just make it easier to read on here. And then same comment about like the arrows, like either make them more visible or just keep the dots. And for the testimonials, I would say this could actually just be its own section, like have this be, oh, okay, I just realized this is a testimonial. So maybe just have one testimonial in each view, and then you could still cut down the testimonial. I think it's totally okay to like edit testimonials in that way. Like it's not like you're actually changing what they said. But you could use like half of Megan's here, then half somewhere else, and then just have one testimonial on each slide, just so that it's not too overwhelming for people. But these are great that you have like this lengthy of testimonials. And then like little thing that I'm always saying is it's good that you have a privacy policy. I would also just add a terms and conditions statement that's required on your website. And then you could also even make all of these icons for social media like the same color in your brand colors. And then I would also add some more text and like more sections to your homepage overall. So maybe an about section that then links to your about page, and then also like a little bit of a services highlight so people can click through to your services. Okay, I'm going to stop there for each person just so that we actually have time for home pages. But I hope that was helpful, Sherry. Okay. Is it Pilar? I have another friend who pronounces the same spelling as Pilar, so I'm not sure if I'm saying your name wrong or not. Okay. I love how high end this feels right away, like very clean, and I love your logo design. I actually like if we were to ever work together, like say on your website or something, I wouldn't necessarily say that you have to get a rebrand because this looks really nice. I'm guessing it's your signature, and it just looks like very luxe to me. And then I like that the navigation is like spaced out really nicely. And one thing that I would do here is maybe just move a call to action further up onto this gallery so that people can quickly contact you and also have like a tagline and that H1 headline that we were talking about too with the last example. Like this could maybe be a good line, but I'm guessing we could get even more specific. So like we could say contemporary weddings and events, but then also have another line based on your niche and your location. And then I like the spacing here. I also like that you left aligned this because it makes it easier to read. You could also, if your website platform lets you, try justifying this text so it kind of has more of like that editorial feel, which I think is kind of what you're going for based on like the colors and the logo design. And then, yeah, I like that you have an about section here. I would say you could even reword this line to be something a little bit more brand appealing. So I totally get what you're saying with let's chat about what you want. But it could be like something, this sounds like cliche, so I wouldn't necessarily use this, but like let's chat about making your dreams come true or changing what you want to kind of like a similar sounding end statement to that niche statement, but like sprucing it up like we were talking about. So like let's chat about and then whatever problem you're solving for them. And I love that there is a call to action here too. I think this is an interesting way to do testimonials. And since they are shorter, I think it's interesting this way. I would say you could even impair like a little photo with each of these testimonials. And then I would just update the year to be 2024 if you're still booking for this year. And you could even make this section a little bit taller too, so it takes up some more space and you could like make the photos larger. And then I love the clean organization of the footer. I feel like people often forget the footer and kind of just like put everything in there. So that looks really great. And then I was just trying, I don't know if there's a way with your website to get rid of the little English pop-up or if like there's somewhere else that we could put it like up here. But just so that it's easy to click on like back to top. And then I would also add your privacy policy and terms and conditions to the footer and update your copyright to include 2024. So it should actually start with like whatever year you founded your business name and then end with 2024, the current year. Okay, I will do the next one. Oh my goodness, a lot of you commented. We'll do Miss Ruby Boutique next. Okay. Oh, I like your logo, Miss Ruby. I don't know if that's actually if Ruby's your first name or not. But I think this looks really nice and clean. And then I love how nicely spaced the navigation is here. One thing that I would say is you can eliminate the drop downs. I don't necessarily think that they're super necessary. Like I would just have an events page that then links out to these, or if one of these events is like really important at the time, maybe have like a small banner, a thin banner here that says something about like bridal blowout sale. And then if you could put the book appointment button just a little bit farther up, but I know it's kind of getting a little bit like crowded here. And then yeah, like Heidi said, immediately communicates inclusivity. I love that. This is a really good photo too. And that's exactly what I'm talking about is like making sure that your clients can see themselves instantly in your website. I would make sure, or actually I can check real quick. I have this little plugin, if you guys have heard of it, it's called headings map, and you can see like what your headings are tagged as on your website. So it looks like this is an H1 headline, and then you also have some others here. So just like from an SEO standpoint, I would just make sure you only have one headline that is tagged as H1. And this would be a good one since it does include Milwaukee in it. I would maybe reword it a little bit depending on like if you've done keyword research or worked with an SEO person, because it could maybe be like inclusive bridal boutique in Milwaukee or something like that. And then you could always have another line or another part of that line say something about most welcoming. Just that way, if people are Googling like inclusive bridal boutique Milwaukee, then they can find that a little bit more easily. And then I love that you have a call to action right at the top too. And then last thing about these headlines is I would just untag like these ones, like it'll show you other headlines that are tagged as an H1. And just as a rule of thumb, for everyone, you should just have one H1 per page on your website. I love this. I would say you can make this section a little larger and then just to make everything scannable, maybe have like an image next to it and then like either left align this text or like add some extra kind of design so people don't scroll past it. Like right now, I feel like they can go right from the top to the next section. And then I love that you talk about their experience. This could even be like pulled out. So you could think about getting like illustrations or icons and maybe like having each of these called out as a unique point because I think each of these is so important on its own and is really a great thing to stand out. And then I also like that your call to actions are really kind of like sales focused, like find my dress, without it necessarily feeling that way to them, of course. But it's like you go through what makes you stand out and help them envision the experience, and then they can click straight on find my dress. I might say just like one super nitpicky thing on the hover is just making the contrast a little bit more. So either keeping the brown text when you hover or like some other color that can look good on the light pink background. And then I like that they can browse the collections. It could be interesting if this was a sliding gallery, if they could kind of just click through a few times if they don't want to like necessarily take the time to go look at the collections page. Yeah, I think this looks so good. I love this. I love that you have your Instagram feed coming in as well, and then your hours. This is so essential for physical businesses because I feel like a lot of wedding dress shops like still miss this, like where you just can't find things easily. And then I love that you also have it really easy to book you there. Yeah, I would say maybe overall, like the biggest thing is just kind of simplifying the navigation a little bit. But I love that you have like the map linked. I love that you have these badges too. And then also just from like a standpoint, like outside of just like sharing your values and connecting with people, I think it's great that you have them linked for SEO purposes. And then I would just add like a terms and conditions statement and update the copyright too. And then also, I don't know if you can do it on your platform. I think in Show It, you can link a phone number for text as well. So if you could do like an SMS link, that would make that easier for people as well. Yeah, great job with that. Okay. We'll do 33 bride. Let me just see how many more we have. Okay, we'll end with Cindy's site, just because I want to get to everyone. Do you still have a bit of time, Heidi?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. I'm like, I might as well just go through them all.
No,
But
this is
I'll end
really
with
helpful
it.
because
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed too, like, when we see what other people do, it's like, oh no, I'm doing that too. I need to go change that.
Yeah, I love it. I'm actually thinking, if anyone follows me, I'm thinking about doing this like maybe on a monthly basis or something. So we'll see. But it's fun too. Okay, Carolina Weddings Show. I would say you could kind of clean these icons up a little bit and then maybe move them to the side or down on the footer and then make this the main thing that you first see along with the logo if you can like move them up a little bit. And then same kind of comment on your website of just simplifying the drop down. Or at least if you can, kind of like Miss Ruby having like a hover so that they don't have to click. Um, and especially like with about, like I would say you could condense this and instead of having the want to model here, you could put this on the contact page. And then one thing I think that's missing here is like an easy to contact area. So I would have like an inquire button or something here, maybe in a different color even. That way it's really easy to contact you. And then also when you like click on one of these drop downs, I would just keep the color or like a lighter color there so that it doesn't fully disappear. And then for these upcoming shows, you could have like a call out banner or something, or even a very small pop-up that's easy to click out of on the bottom. And I just wanted to see where each of these kinds of clicks to. I feel like, and this could totally be me just not understanding your niche well enough, but I think these could be a little bit more specified of like what they're clicking on each time. So that they like about makes sense to me and blog and videos and then shows and tickets make sense. But maybe just something like explore exhibits could be good here or exhibit information instead of to exhibit. And then who you'll meet. It looks like this might be information about wedding pros. So maybe it could be like meet the wedding pros or something like this. Okay. Kind of just the same comment. I feel like I'm probably repeating this thing over and over again, but I don't necessarily know that you need arrows right here. Maybe this could be like an auto scroll. And then I think you could also make it a little bit taller and then add like a call to action near the top. So if the main action that you want them to get is to buy tickets, then I would put buy tickets like somewhere in the top and then also here. And I would say instead of like showing them both dates at the top, you could still have this somewhere farther down, but then have both of those linked on the contact page. So it looks like this might be okay, the shows and tickets page, I think. I would just like have all of this like on an easy contact page and this closer to the top so that they can just book it right away. So one thing that I do for client sites often is have like a contact form higher up, and then farther down on the page, we might have some other information and details for them. But we'll have the contact form high up so that they can just get to it right away. And then I would, instead of having this sidebar here, because it is the home page and just needs to be really scannable, like I think a sidebar is fine for blog pages. But I would have this be like its own kind of call to action section, and then have a skinny section that has like all of your sponsors on there. And I feel like what your page could use the most is just a quick explanation near the top of like what the wedding shows are, so that people instantly know what the website is about, and then like basically what the goal is, which it seems to be like booking their tickets for the expos or shows. So I would have like a tagline somewhere near the top of like, um, maybe it's like increase your visibility in Carolina or something like that. And then maybe a line that explains a little bit more concretely what you do, like wedding shows and expos for wedding pros. And then the call to action up here. And then for the footer, um, I would say adding all of the same kind of navigation down here if you can, and then adding a privacy policy and terms and conditions statement. And then also if you have any social media, oh yeah, you do, I forgot. So we'll put that like maybe in the footer as well if you don't also move it to the top corner. And I'm not sure if you need this if it's like from your developer, but removing this I think would be good too. Okay. All right, we'll do your rental source and then hitched without a glitch. Okay, your rental source. One thing that I would say, if you can, I would change your domain name. I would keep this domain and then redirect it. But see if you can get like Crystal Event Rentals or something, because I think that that could cause some confusion. Almost like I was kind of looking for your rental source as the business name. So it's not always possible, but if you could get your brand name closer to the URL, then I think that would be helpful. Um, and then depending on what you're going for, like the feel of your brand, I would say one thing that you can do is make the logo look a little bit like less corporate for the design of the diamond. Maybe it's like a little bit more of a luxury feel by making this line thinner and like having it be like less sharp of lines or something. And then picking a font that feels modern still, but like maybe a little bit less like structured and boxy than this font, without knowing like your full brand goals there. And same with the color too. Like I don't know if it's just my screen, but I kind of get more of a yellow feel, I think, from this gold, or like a yellow green. So just kind of playing with that and seeing if you can refine that a little bit. I like that you have event rentals and design right at the top. I would say it's really important for rental companies, especially, to have some kind of location. So instead of like maybe having a drop down with all of these locations, I totally get what you're doing here. I think of like having each of these be like a location specific page for SEO, but I would maybe look at your website speed of, I don't know if it's just screen sharing that's making that slow, but um, I would have these be like hidden pages on your website, and then maybe just more like an information or where to find us page, and then they can explore and go straight to these. And I would figure out which area is either like your favorite to work in or where you're closest to, or like do some keyword research and figure out which area is most popularly searched. I'm guessing it's probably Orlando. Are you? Oh yeah, you're in Orlando, Florida, like you're in the Florida area. So probably Orlando or Winter Park, and then making that like your main focus on your homepage. Like saying something like Winter Park event rentals or Orlando event rentals or something. And then I do like how the rentals are super easy to view. One thing that could be interesting if you wanted to is like having each of these open up and then just like a quick drop down here so they could quickly view like, okay, there's ceremony rentals, which a lot of couples might not necessarily know everything that includes if they haven't planned a wedding before. And then it could just quickly drop down to these options. So like right from the home page, they could just start shopping. And then of course, like we could still have like a rentals or collection page if they want to take a little bit more time to explore. And then yeah, kind of like how there's these specific rentals. I like that you talk about the process here. I kind of like the drop downs. I'm like conflicted about them because I think they take a little bit of time and you could just like have these separated out and like a clean design that makes it scannable. But I think it's also kind of interesting to just have these. Maybe what you could do is add like a step 1, step 2, step 3, and then the contact us button on this side, just so it's like a little bit easier to notice there. And then I like what you did with the testimonials. This is kind of what I was mentioning as an earlier example of just having them click through. If you could have a picture to include with them, I think that would be good. And then I would probably take off the drop shadows. I don't necessarily think you need them against this background. And I think that could help elevate the site some more. And then for color palette too, this kind of looks like a different blue than this one. And then this one and like the lighter blue, and then there's also the gray. So I would see if you could kind of simplify that since you already have the gold and like the lighter purple color, and then also like the beige color. I would just see if you could make all of your color palette a little bit more simple. And then I'm guessing, are you maybe on Squarespace? I've used this wish list integration before. So maybe if you could, you can move the wish list like up to the top navigation so it's easier to notice. And it would be really cool for the recent events if when you hover over it, maybe says like the couple's name or the venue or like explains, I think they're probably all weddings, but if any of them were like different kinds of events, explain what that is. And then I would say, for this section, you could have like one more little line about how you help them uniquely, like the unique problem you solve, and maybe choose a different photo for this background too. This could totally just be my perception, but if you are trying to kind of have like a higher end feel, I feel like the crates are kind of like going out of style a little bit just for like high end weddings. Not that you can't show it anywhere in any of your samples, or if this is the kind of clientele that you're trying to go for, like kind of like that like rustic but still nice wedding. Like maybe this could stay in a gallery somewhere, but maybe just having like another stunning picture like this one I think is really great. I think actually pulling out like this top image or any of these three more as a background on your website would be really powerful. And then I would just add your terms and conditions, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the homepage. Okay. The Creekview Barn. Are you all still there? Are you there, Heidi?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was unmuted.
Okay, everyone was so quiet for a long time. I'm like, I know I'm still here, like in screen sharing,
It's
but
like leaf blowers and stuff outside. So I'm like, ah,
yeah.
try to hide that.
No worries. I get that too here. Okay, for Creekview Barn, I like your logo. I would say you could have a version kind of with the monogram and then Creekview Barn under. And then I'm wondering if you're kind of trying to go for like high-end rustic. I don't know if that's the right feel for you. But you could choose more of a font, I think that feels like a little bit more high-end, but still has like that unique feel to your brand. So it would be, I think I would focus on branding the most first. But I like that the logo or the colors are pretty simple and like the design feels very clean right away when you get here. I like that the navigation is easy to navigate. I would say you could probably switch these, like have the logo higher up and a little bit smaller, and then make these a little bit larger just so that they're easier for people to notice. And then I like the gallery. I don't know if there's a way to speed up the speed of this a little bit, but I would try to do that. And then you could even, I know this is probably part of the logo, the event venue line, but you could have a headline up here that maybe says like wedding and event venue, and then in your area, like maybe it's wedding and event venue in Mississippi or Mississippi event venue. One thing that I noticed about this is I definitely think we want people to see themselves in the photos, which is I think what you're going for with the couples photos, but I feel like it would be really impactful if you had a photo of like a couple in the front of your venue, just large in the beginning, and then maybe have this gallery pushed farther down where it shows like couples in a lot of different locations around there. And then I think you could take off the captions maybe, or like have them like subtly below. If you were going to keep it on the top, like I don't think that we should have like the captions all here in the top navigation or like the top fold. But I think that this could serve better farther down as kind of like a gallery type section. And then I would also have some kind of call to action up near the top to like book a tour or contact you or something like that. I know you have contact up here, but just something even more quick. I like this intro a lot. I like that you say it's a place where you can slow down, take things in, and enjoy a breathtaking experience. I think that this language helps people to envision their time there like right away. And then I would also just have a call to action right here because that's like the best thing on your website is to kind of like help them envision themselves there and then influence them to contact you right away. And then I would add some more content on the homepage. Like if you could have a small about us section. If you are calling yourself an event venue, I'm guessing you probably do kinds of other events, or you could just change it to wedding venue. But if you do several types of events, you could call that out here somewhere on the homepage. It doesn't need to be near the top, but have like some kind of services page. And then I like that you have a video as well. I think this, you could always have like a short clip of it without audio, and that could be like the top of your now, the top fold of your website. And then I would just move this to the footer a little bit, and I think you could take the powered and secured by Wix out. I don't think you have to have it there since it looks like you're paying for a subscription. And then I would just make, oh, it is clickable. That's perfect that you're email is clickable. Maybe if you can, like have this like either underline or change colors when you hover, so they know what to expect when that happens. And then the request more information is great. I would just remove the for from your contact page. And then I would update this to just include 2024, and I would remove the chat box unless you really get back to people like 24/7. I think that at the end, like you're just going to want them in your CRM or like filling out your contact form first anyway. So if you felt like you still wanted something here, maybe it could be like a small pop-up that says like contact us for a tour today or something like that. Yeah, I would say overall, just like adding more content. The layout is very clean, which I think looks good. And then maybe just elevating your branding a little bit more, but still keeping it in line with kind of like that quiet, rustic feel that you're going for. Okay, I think we are on, okay, Believe Bride, and then we'll have Cindy. Great. Okay. Are you like an apparel shop? Don't know if you're still on, Cami. Okay, I might have missed her, but I would say just like making it evident what you are first, like what type of business you are. I think this is a common thing if you are like a dress and apparel shop because I think people don't call that out. And it's like hard to, unless you have like really good photos of like the inside of your shop, like it's hard to have photos there right away that show that. But I can tell kind of from here. I would say I'm actually okay with this drop down since you are a shop. I think it's okay to have like a few more options. Maybe for weddings. I feel like this is hard because I get like the psychology of like separating them, but I think it might just be better to put plus size in dresses and then like restructure your shop so that when people are shopping dresses or like bridesmaid clothing or something, they can just also put in plus sizes there and not calling it out. But maybe you could have a section on the wedding page itself that talks about plus size options, since I know that's not always something we can expect. And then I like that you have the book an appointment here. I would say you could also use a little bit of a rebrand someday, like when you're at that point. I mean, maybe it's with simplifying like the design of the logo. Oh yeah, I like that Cindy's comment. I'm very tired of always and only being in a separate section with way fewer options. Yeah, I think that could be just like a little bit more user friendly too, because people don't always like. I feel like plus size is so complicated. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm plus size at like Forever 21 and Victoria's Secret. And it's really just like like every size is normal, but like I'm not that at other stores. So I think it would just be easier to shop and be able to put in whatever like your measurements and size are and have that be cohesive. And then for the logo, I would say making it a little bit, I couldn't see the white flowers necessarily. So elevating it, and you could still keep a lot of the detail, but kind of simplify it in a way just so it feels more high end. And then I like that you have Spokane Bridal Shop here. That's good for SEO, especially if it's a good keyword. Maybe having a second line, or I think that you could even do better than just saying like the best Spokane Bridal Shop. I think that you could talk more about like what makes you stand out as a shop. And I get that you totally could be just like the highest quality provider there, but maybe saying something different, because it's kind of, I think it's like now a thing of like the 2020s, but anytime a business says best, I'm like always like, okay, but are you really? Nothing against your brand at all, but I think maybe coming up with something unique there. And then I love that there's a book an appointment button. And then let's see our upgrade experiences. Oh, I think this could be a very fun section where if, especially if you have a photo maybe of a group of people shopping before, you could like have a wide photo of it and have that in the background here. And then maybe the headline could be something like celebrate with our VIP experience. And this could be like its own beautiful section because I think it's really still kind of unique when bridal shops like make it a whole experience. And then maybe it's like learn more about the experience or experience believe bride today or something. And then I like that you also have this separate section, basically calling out your different offerings. And then I like that you have the button here. I would say you could link this to the magazine to get that extra link for like SEO purposes. And then you could change these to social media icons just to make it a little bit more scannable. And then instead of having just a newsletter sign up here, I would see if you could provide some kind of like freebie or lead magnet. Maybe it's something like what body type are you, like like the apple or pear shapes or something like that, or maybe it's like a prom dress freebie of like how to pick your prom color or something like that. That could be interesting to put here. And then I like that you have the collections easily scannable. um I don't know if these for you are like different services, but like maybe to condense everything, I think you could just put testimonials like up at the top, but actually you don't even need a necessarily a separate testimonials page. I would divide them up like and have one at least one here on the home page, and then have like a couple on the about and a couple on the collections page. And then events, I would just have events in the top navigation here, which you do. But I would maybe like restructure this so that you have some like more clarity on these, since like these two don't really feel like services. And then I know gown preservation is like an additional service, but I thought tuxedo measurements were kind of like just part of the tuxedo shopping experience. So I think I would either put that here, or like still put it here on the page, and then you could just mention somewhere that it is an extra investment if it is. And then I like that your hours are easily found, and that you can click through to all of this information. I think it could even stand out more if you had the book an appointment just like on another color of button here. And then I would just add terms and conditions down here. Maybe modernize this button a little bit. I don't know if it's just because it's kind of like an integration from a software, but maybe make it match the rest of this, and also upgrade the copyright. Yeah, I think that could be a good start for you. And moving up a call to action up here too, if I didn't say something like maybe it's like start your experience today or something like that. Okay, we're gonna do ILS travel with Cindy. Oh, I just copied believe bridal again. I'm just gonna type it in. Okay, did you do a logo redesign since we talked to Cindy? I feel like this is definitely your vibe that we were talking about. I like that it's fun and playful because I know like from talking, okay, new colors. Yeah, it does look like a big revamp for your design. But I do like that it has like that kind of like fun, effortless feel because I think that's exactly the kind of couples that you want to be working with. And then I love all the photos that you choose in the beginning. I would say maybe you could get rid of like the kind of like transition effect here and just like, I don't know if it's just like the kind of slight zoom or something, but it might be like a little less distracting to get rid of that. And then it looks like for SEO purposes, I'm guessing this is like a great keyword to use. Oh, I love this. Unforgettable weddings for fun, modern marriers. I like that word. I don't feel like I see people writing marriers that way a lot, so I think that's a fun addition. And then I also, oh yeah, I didn't even think that. Yeah, I was just thinking kind of like couples, but I know there also could be like thruples maybe that you work with. But I think that is really fun. I would say maybe, I don't know, you could keep both blues. I was gonna say I'm not sure if you need both, but I also think that it's good for you to have a colorful palette. Um, I would shorten this paragraph, like make it skinnier and like put it more to the side, and then have like a photo here and just make it larger, kind of like I feel like it's a lot of text when you get to these two sections, which isn't bad, but just like changing the design a little bit so that it's easier to scan. And then same with this, like this could be a larger section and you can make this photo larger, like maybe go to like almost half the page and then either shorten this text and use some of it somewhere else, or like just like make the paragraph skinnier. Um, and then I also love some of your writing. I'm kind of just scanning things quickly, but I love that. And then somehow you made it here. Ooh. And then I like how you're like just really clear about like what the experience is like with you. I would put a call to action down here and then also on here just so that people can quickly contact you in several places. Oh, and I was gonna say for the top hamburger menu, if you can, I would have this like take up more space, and then maybe make the X like a little larger just so that it's like evident. Like I was kind of automatically trying to close out of it by clicking somewhere else. So just like kind of force them to realize that the X is how you close it. And then I love this photo of you. I would say you can make it kind of same comment, make it bigger, put like all of the text to one side. I would say you could use this line, like maybe even shorten it a little bit, but basically use this for like SEO purposes of like queer wedding planner in Seattle. And then I would make this line bigger, like, or maybe even like have it take up across the page, but like your queer fat feminist wedding fairy god planner in Seattle and the PNW or something. Because I feel like that's a bold statement and would go really well, like large in probably this font, but like make it even bigger and bold and like in one of your brighter colors. And I think that could be like a really fun way, like if people are scanning, for them to feel really connected with you. And then I love that you have both of your services highlighted. I would give the testimonial just a little bit more space, and then also make this section a little taller too, just so that it's like not so much on one view. And then also same with this. I think that I know that it's like not your main service that you're trying to advertise, but I think that the inclusivity training can kind of quickly get lost with everything. So I would just kind of maybe move it to the top or like make it a larger section. And then I would make the gallery section larger too. And if you can, some of these photos seem like a little bit lower res than the top photos. So if you have like any higher res ones, or like I just feel like these photos at the top are so stunning. So if you have any of like, especially this quality of this photo or like this one, I think other photos kind of that quality, like that just seem like a little bit more high end could be really good here. Like if you have any more from these specific couples that you like. And then maybe either keep a little bit more space between these testimonials, like move one farther up or have them click through in one section. Um, and then I like the photographer credit. I would say if you wanted to save some space, you could have a separate photography credit page and then like link it in the footer down here. Or maybe move it a little bit farther down in the footer. I like the latest blogs. I would have like some consistency with the thumbnails a little bit more of like either maybe having all of them like say the topic that the blog is about, or all of them be kind of like these like high-end kind of vibes for the wedding photography. Especially this one's so fun. Um, like and maybe making them larger too, so that it just like has a little bit more of that effect and people don't just like scroll past it. And then if you could, oh, well, these are different features. Okay, I see. I was gonna say I would put these all on one line, but I see that they're like not the same kinds of badges. Um, I would link out to these websites if you could, just for like a little bit of an SEO boost. I think that they don't link out, or that one does, but I don't know if I saw the Whippo one. Okay, yeah. So like I would, if you could, well there, I don't know if there's a specific site that you can link. You are all welcome here too, but if you could just link out all of those, and then I would definitely also have this featured on section. If you don't have it like already on your about page, like have it as like kind of a section that stands out even more. And then I also think this is great that you put this in the footer. I think that's great for SEO. And then you could eventually too, just like for an extra SEO boost, if you don't already, make like a Puget Sound wedding planner page. And I don't know if I would do Pacific Northwest, but like maybe if there's like Renton or like Olympia or like kind of like other areas in Washington that you serve, you could also kind of create custom pages for that. And then I also love your acknowledgement statement. Yeah. I feel like it looks good, Cindy, and like you have so much content to work with. I would just like work a little bit more basically like on the flow of things so that it's more easy to read, and just giving things a little bit more space too, if you can. Okay. I think I got everything.
That was great. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for taking the time to do
yeah, of
that. That's
course.
amazing.
I hope it was helpful for everyone.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's given people a lot of ideas. So,
Yeah, a lot of you stayed. Thanks for staying.
yeah, well, that shows you something.
Yeah, sorry that you had to stay till the very end, Cindy, for your website. Great. Does anyone else have like any last questions? Oh, did I do yours, T-Dog? I didn't see yours come up.
No, I'm not seeing that either.
Yeah, I think we ended with Cindy's, but if you wanted to reach out, my email's at hello@emilyfostercreative.com, and I can give you some pointers there.
Great idea and great place for anyone who wants to reach out to you and touch base if you want to work together. If there are lots of different ways Emily helps people. So don't hesitate to reach out. And Emily, oh my God, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This has been wonderful. And we'll
Yeah.
get everyone the recording so they can come back to it. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'll talk with you soon.
All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. I will get this recording to you very soon. And definitely reach out to Emily if you need anything branding and website related. We'll
Yeah,
see you soon. Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.